On the morning of New Year's Eve 2000, the Setagaya neighborhood in Tokyo was settling into the holiday silence. Yasuko Miyazawa's mother lived in the house next door. When she couldn't get her daughter to answer the phone, she walked over and knocked. Receiving no response, she used her own key to let herself in. At the base of the stairs, she found her son-in-law, Mikio, slumped near the door. Moving through the three-story home, she discovered her daughter, Yasuko, and her two young grandchildren, Nina and Rei. All four had been killed. The scene suggested a standard violent burglary, a horrific but predictable hit-and-run. But the evidence told a different story. When police arrived, they began cataloging a mountain of physical evidence. By the end of the search, they had documented over 12,500 individual pieces left behind by the intruder. The records were extraordinarily specific. Investigators recovered the killer's fingerprints, his blood, the clothes he wore, and even biological records of his last meal. Authorities built a robust physical profile of the suspect. Yet, a quarter of a century later, the investigation remains open, without a single arrest. Solving the Setagaya murders requires looking past the violence and examining the impossible sequence of events that occurred in the hours following the deaths. Around 11:30 p.m., the intruder scaled the outer fence. He slipped through a second-story bathroom window and entered the house while the family was likely still awake or just settling into bed. He moved first to the bedroom of 6-year-old Rei. While the boy slept in his bunk bed, the intruder strangled him. The silence broke when Mikio confronted the attacker near the stairs. A struggle followed that ended with Mikio dead, and the killer's sashimi knife broken, its tip lodged in the father's skull. Now carrying a broken blade, the intruder retrieved a secondary kitchen knife from the family's home. He then headed to the mezzanine level to finish the attack on Yasuko and 8-year-old Nina. The bloody chaos of the execution phase ended as quickly as it began, but instead of fleeing into the night, the killer stayed. He walked through the house, locked the doors, and settled into a routine. Having suffered deep cuts to his own hands during the struggle, he located the family's first aid kit and sanitary products, using them to bandage his wounds. He then opened the refrigerator. He ate a melon, drank 4 bottles of barley tea, ate 4 cups of ice cream, leaving saliva on the wrappers and cups. He used the upstairs toilet and left it unflushed. The waste inside confirmed he had recently eaten a meal of string beans and sesame seeds. At 1:18 a.m., he booted up Mikio's computer. He spent time browsing a theater website that the father had bookmarked, even attempting to book tickets for an upcoming performance. Finally, he moved to the second-floor living room, lay down on the sofa, and took a nap. The killer spent 10 hours navigating the home as if the bodies weren't there, moving from a quadruple homicide to a routine with total indifference. Before finally departing, the killer emptied his pockets and left his blood-stained clothing behind, neatly folded. He left behind a specific wardrobe, a uniquely dyed raglan sweatshirt, an AirTech jacket, and a gray wool crusher hat. He also abandoned a dark green hip bag, its belt adjusted to fit a waist measuring between 70 and 75 centimeters. Inside that bag, forensics found trace amounts of sand. Geological testing traced the grains to the Mojave Desert, specifically the area surrounding Edwards Air Force Base in California. His DNA provided a complete profile, indicating a man of mixed East Asian and Southern European descent. By the time he walked out the door, he had discarded his clothing, his DNA, and his geographic history, leaving them all behind on the living room furniture. The exact moment he left is unclear. The computer was accessed one last time at 10 a.m., just moments before Yasuko's mother arrived at the locked front door. The scale of the police response was massive. Over 200,000 officers have been assigned to the case, and 5 million fingerprints have been analyzed against international databases. Authorities offered a 20 million yen reward and investigated theories ranging from foreign hitmen to disgruntled neighbors. Every lead resulted in a dead end. The abundance of evidence paradoxically created a bottleneck. Police have everything needed to identify a suspect, yet no one in the world matches the profile. The Miyazawa house stood for decades, kept intact by a family waiting for the physical space to reveal the final answer they've been denied for a quarter of a century. The killer left a perfect biological map of himself, and then he walked out of the house and erased himself from existence. The true horror of the Setagaya murders is the silence that followed. No motive, no forced escape, and 25 years later, no answers.